Hello, everybody. This is Matthew and Nathan with Powershift Radio. I know we took a hiatus there a while back, but we're back and we intend to do these as we can. Just a kind of a little bit of background about what happened. We both kind of, had switched careers a little bit. I was local truck driving when we were doing the power shift more constantly. And now I'm back to being over the road due to some changes in my personal life. And we're kind of just trying to get back on our feet with being able to do this again. There's been a lot of requests for it, and we're looking forward to bringing these as often as possible. So we do apologize for that, and we are back, and again, we do intend to do these as much as we can. Today we do have some things we're going to talk about, and hopefully you guys don't mind as we struggle through this a little bit. It's been obviously a few months, so we just got to get back in our groove, and we certainly appreciate your continued support. So on the list, car guy, not a car guy, it doesn't matter. Unless you live in a cave, you've heard about the new Dodge Demon. You've seen the commercials. Dodge is being so secretive on this thing, you would think they teamed up with Coca-Cola. They're dropping videos, every week? And they're dropping these subtle hints about what the car is and isn't going to be. I mean, I have heard there's going to be a wheel hop limiter program built into the car's ABS and traction control system. And there's launch control, factory drag radials, wide body. This thing's going to be sick. And people can joke all they want about, how heavy Challengers are. I can tell you this thing's going to be nasty. I have this feeling this car is going to be insane. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, they're just off the rip. The Hellcat has been, off the showroom, unstoppable, stock for stock cars. So, I mean, the Demon is just going to be, it's going to set the bar even higher than what it already is. There's nobody that has been able to touch it out of the factory yet, let alone something that's going to have what is rumored to be in the 800 horsepower range.
It's going to be insane. I mean, they're saying that they're shaving a minimum of 200 pounds. A reliable source has said on Jalopnik, at least 200 pounds. And all the Ford and Chevy guys are getting all their asses in a pinch saying, well, just wait till the GT500 comes out. Well, we're waiting because we haven't seen anything. And the ZL1s have already been getting walked by stock Hellcats. And there's been plenty of videos of ZL6s getting walked by Hellcats. So if the lowly Hellcat can do that, then what's the Demon going to do? I mean, this thing's going to be insane.
And, not only that, it's aimed towards the weekend warrior that, all they want to do is go there and, destroy that ass.
Yeah.
It's going to have factory line lock, like you said, the wheel hop elimination stuff. It's got a factory rapid cooling system, as we've seen in this week's video, some kind of cooling mechanism that is going to allow for, basically hot lapping this car in what is going to be, mid to low 10-second ETs on, the regular drive it to the track, straight off the showroom floor, factory wrinkle wall drag radials, run mid to low 10s consecutively, and then drive the car home. I mean, that's impressive coming with a warranty and everything.
Yeah, I think it's amazing because so many people say, well, cars have lost their way, and I wish somebody would sell a caged car. And as soon as somebody like Dodge does, everybody knocks it saying, well, it's still heavy. Well, shut the fuck up and enjoy what they're doing, because we're in an age of downsized turbo engines, automatic transmissions mandatory. We're seeing all this, and Dodge is still sticking with, right now we think, a supercharger. Either way, it is still going to be a big engine. It's not going to be some four-cylinder. And the car has, drag radials and just all this cool shit that a car should have. Yes, it is not geared at a twisty back road. The Challenger The muscle cars were never meant for that. They were meant for exactly what this car is going to do. This is a car straight out of 1970.
Yeah, go try and hop into an old school Mopar or even a Chevy or a Ford, you know, and try and, go in a straight line and then go to the twisties. Either way, it's not gonna turn out too well for you in the twisties. So they were
No.
never meant to be that. So straight line domination is everything that Chrysler and Mopar, the Fiat Chrysler Association is going for right now with that car.
Oh yeah, I mean you got a huge engine, a heavy engine just right over the front axle. I mean that that is a clear indication that this car it's a drag car. I mean just look at them. The Hellcats have went high tens on radials just the way they are, especially if the driver half knew what they're doing. And I mean, there's really no right now. The Hellcat is unrivaled. The ZL1, and again, I want to go ahead and laugh real quick because it's 50 pounds lighter than a Hellcat. It's 50 pounds lighter, and being subjective, it's hideous. And the Hellcat is super attractive. It's got much more power. It has much more appeal, and it's obviously much faster. So the Demon, it's just there's nothing that could even touch its little brother. This is going to make Ford and Chevy really get off their ass and build a serious car. This is about to be a huge arms race like we've never seen before.
They're gonna have to step it up either way.
Yeah, oh yeah, the bar's set so high. A 500 horsepower car is just not going to cut it in this segment anymore.
Yeah, not in this category
No,
anyway.
not when we're talking super, muscle cars. It's just it's not gonna do it.
It's the same way it was back in the day, the drag race wars, the factory stock cars, right off the showroom floor, take them to the track, change your tires, do a little bit of stuff like that, pop your intake, open it up, and then you're just competing.
Ice it down. I mean, we're at that level of performance with a stock car at this. I mean, that is just awesome.
I mean, I'm honored to be reliving, what
yes,
the 2-3 generations ago were experiencing,
Yeah, no kidding. These are those
like our
cars.
grandparents were living this in, the mid to late 60s and early 70s, and now we're getting to relive our own, modern version of what they did.
Yeah, these are those same cars like our grandparents and our, fathers, look back when they were out and said, it's just this or that, and they enjoyed them. We're kind of doing the same thing with these, but in 30 years, these cars are going to be special. Even though I don't like the ZL1 or the Camaros, still those cars are special cars, and they're gonna be worth something someday. Even if they are absolutely hideous, still they're gonna be worth something. And that kind of brings us up to our next thing. We plan on talking about some of the more niche cars and the fact that people cross shop some of these cars, even though a lot of people don't think it happens. And as Powershift Radio, we're proud to announce that my co-host Nathan has went out and bought a new car, and I think it's just a really good time to segue into that. Why don't you go ahead and introduce USS Ronald Reagan?
Yes, USS Ronald Reagan is ported into my garage. No, I was on the market for a new vehicle, and I've always been, I don't know, a bigger car, kind of. Always was in the market for a 4-door. I had always been into the sport compact scene. So originally on my agenda, I had in my crosshairs a beautiful nitrous blue 2016 Focus RS.
Yes.
Needless to say, that didn't happen, but we'll kind of talk about the cross shopping, as Matt was saying, what makes an enthusiast cross shop in two totally different classes. But I did end up, going with, when we were talking about the Chargers and the Demon and everything, and I like to call this car my baby cat. But, I ended up getting a 2016 Scat Pack Challenger in V5 blue with a 6-speed manual. Actually, well, I can't say that I ordered it this way, but I had it specially picked up. I had shopped, found a couple different ones. Dealerships just weren't quite, willing to work with me. And then I found a dealership that had a red Scat Pack, but it was actually an automatic, and it wasn't a total deal breaker for me, but I just wasn't on the market for it until the actual, salesman actually was talking to me. And then he kind of was like, well, what are you actually wanting? So I was like, well, if I'm going to actually wait and be patient and get a car that I actually want, I want it to be B5 blue, and I want a manual transmission. It doesn't have to have the fancy interior, the Alcantara suede, and, the Napa leather, which would have been a great addition. But, that wasn't what I was on the market for. I was on the market for something sporty, something that I can take to the track on the weekends, but still drive it daily if need be, kind of how I was back in my high school days and when I had my RX-7 and my Audi and stuff like that. It was just fun to just go on the spur of the moment and go to the track and have a blast and still have fun driving to the track, have a great time at the track, and then drive home. I mean, it's just the total experience. It's not all about going to the track and just racing. It's about the total package, in my opinion. And
Right.
that's why I was shopping the RS, because, to me that was a great package. 4-door, sporty car. I had always loved the Focuses growing up, the SVTs and everything, the lineage leading up to us getting the RS. And, that it's just appealing stuff like that to me. And I had always, when I had my Charger, my 2014 Charger, I'd always wished that I had gotten the Challenger or been able to get a Challenger, but not having credit will do that to you.
Right.
But I really honestly was dead set on getting the RS. I had my mind set up that I would, I was gonna pay 50 grand for it if I had to. I just had to have that car. But luckily, I had the better judgment to kind of step back and kind of, I had settled before in a previous purchase, and I was like, you know what, I just want to shop around and be absolutely sure. And it led from certain situations and, circumstances in dealing with getting the RS kind of pushed me more towards getting the Scat Pack. We had always talked about it, and ever since you had test drove one and written your article, and I was in love knowing that it had the SRT drivetrain and the more stripped down RT body was
Right.
always appealing to me, just because we kind of grew up as having stripped down cars but with the better power
Yes.
plants and everything, so it was appealing to me in that way also. But the biggest thing that I guess is appealing to me is its rear wheel drive. I've always loved rear wheel drive. 485 horsepower and 475 foot-pound on tap through a manual 6-speed. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that, in my opinion, other than more power, obviously.
Oh,
But
yeah.
straight off the showroom floor for in my budget, what I can afford every month and be comfortable and, not have to break your neck to be able to afford something like that. I mean, in my opinion, it's the perfect car for me and my personality and my driving style.
Right. I mean, I can say I've not driven the Focus RS. It is one of the newer cars I have wanted to drive, but I haven't. Obviously, you have, but I guess my thing is the Scat Pack has that raw power, which you could obviously get out of the Focus RS, but it's going to come at a cost, not necessarily monetarily, but it's going to come at a reliability cost. We don't know what the reliability of that Focus is going to be just yet, and obviously the Gen 3 Hemi has been out for, I mean, it could probably just
Going
about
on 15 years
yeah,
almost.
it'd almost be ready to vote. So the Gen 3's been out a while. It's proven really reliable and stout, and stock to stock, there is no comparison. I will say, obviously, we have shown the Scat Pack love on Powershift before. Nathan said I went out and wrote an article about one, and I'm not ashamed to admit it. I said that day after that drive, if I had enough credit to where I wouldn't have a vicious APR, I would have took that car home. Even though it was black and that ain't my favorite color, if my credit was just a touch better, I probably would have one right next to yours.
Yeah,
I thought that highly of that car, and Nathan's got one now, and he's had it for a few weeks, and I will vouch for the fact that car is extremely quick in stock form. It is downright impressive, especially if people like to joke about the weight of these things. That you can't tell.
You can't tell that it's a 4,200 pound car when the skinny pedal goes when it goes down.
It's so traction limited with its weight.
Yep. Yeah,
it's
certain
insane.
Certain conditions on a cool, damp morning essentially set all the way through second gear and halfway through third is pretty much useless.
Yes.
And that's a testament to, it does only have 245 millimeter wide tires.
Right.
But
They're
at the
still
same point in time,
F1s.
475 foot-pound of torque, just basically annihilates those.
I mean, the thing is the Focus RS is a great handler. It's all-wheel drive. It's super aggressive, track geared. But you could have it both ways pretty easy by buying the Scat Pack and buying a Miata and just pulling the Miata out, throwing it on coilover. You could have it both ways without having to settle, because let's be honest, the RS will never be capable of generating that sound. That the sound of the Scat, and I said it in the article, and I had forgotten, because Nate had told me, he goes, I think it's a little loud stock. And I was like, really? And when I heard it, I went back and reread my article, and I had actually mentioned that. That thing sounds amazing.
Yeah,
it is unbelievable.
For being stock, it definitely... it has the burble on the down,
yes.
on the rev match, and you're just downshifting, the burble when it goes down, it just... I don't know, there's something about that. I've never had a car that's been able to do that, so it just enamors me. I know it's something lame, but...
Inquiring minds gotta know, since you've driven both, you obviously own one of them. I'm gonna put you on the spot. One thing that you loved about the RS and you dislike about the Challenger, go.
Interior
of the RS is better?
The interior of the RS, obviously, the leather and suede. The suede on the dash,
the beautiful RS blue stitching.
Yes. I mean, don't get me wrong, in no way am I bashing the interior on the Scat, because it's
honestly
great.
Really good.
And I was actually laughing to myself, on the way home today from work, looking over the interior, just kind of like, looking over it. But yeah, the RS, the factory Recaro buckets, they hug you tighter than, a little kid that hasn't seen you in 4 years,
Yeah, of course.
There's something about that, I don't know, just the quality of the interior in the RS. It is
built in Europe.
The overall quality of the car, in my opinion, that car was the total package. Not for the price that this particular dealership that I was trying to go to, not mentioning any names, but they were kind of they were out
marking
there.
It up.
There was a significant markup, and not saying that the car wouldn't be worth it, but not to somebody that
sees value in other cars as well.
Yep, and the value of other cars comparable, and that's why I really cross-shopped between the two cars, because they were stickered extremely close.
Even though they're two entirely different cars.
I think the RS that I was looking at was only stickered maybe $1,500 lower than the Scat Pack that I currently own. So, I mean, they're both sporty cars that, the younger generation is it's appealing to the younger generation. I wanted something, four-door, and that was going to be, daily usable, still practical, kind of blend in, but still have the loud color, so when you wanted it to stand out, it would. But, I mean, and not many people believe me, but I was infatuated with the RS. That was the car that I wanted, and I was going to have that car. But other words, other things happened, and
Right.
in the end, I feel as if I got the better car.
I
Even
agree.
though I was so dead set on getting the RS, I feel that I have the better car. Not saying that because I own it, but now that I've
No.
experienced the both of them to the, and I've experienced the Scat to the fullest extent, getting to actually run it hard and experience it and drive it and cruise it, I couldn't see that I would have been as satisfied as I am in the Scat. Um,
No, I mean, I know you really thought highly of the RS because I was actually sitting in Tennessee when he was looking at these cars, and he called me right away and said, "Hey, this is what I'm looking at." I was like, "Wow, it's quite a car. The RS is amazing."
yes, the handling, the RS would clearly destroy the
Oh yeah,
the Scat in the corners, but
it's like I said. When he was looking at him, I even said I think I might want the Scat over it
yeah,
because
and
of
I was,
the reliability and just that car is brutish. If you've not driven a Scat Pack and you're
mhm,
listening to this,
I highly
take
recommend
off
it.
your blinders and go drive it
Yep,
because
it's a very overlooked car because of
it's not
the
an RT.
yes,
It's not an RT. I
although it
tried to
is
make
only
that
badged as an
so
RT.
right. I tried to make that so blatantly obvious in my article, and I think people thought I was just exaggerating.
No,
And no, it's
as
not.
of both of us driving a Scat and driving an RT,
Oh yeah,
there
there's
is
no
no
comparison.
day and night. Not saying that the 5.7 RT is a bad car, but for the extra little bit of money, get
Get
the
the Scat
Scat.
Pack. Yeah, it doesn't take a genius to see that. I mean, there's no comparison. I mean,
And I'm not saying that this is a lightning fast car and anything that's going to
it's
set the world on fire.
certainly not. It's certainly not just quick though. I mean, it's a lot more than just quick. It is.
It's
It
a cruiser.
Yes, it's a good all arounder. I
Yep,
mean, it's got Brembo brakes. It's got
Brembos,
forged wheels, and it.
factory aluminum hood with
Uh,
functional ducts. You can do a little mods, and you can have a Hellcat, the ram air into the headlight with literally $120 mod if you want.
yeah, and the little bezel pop. We've actually taken the bezels out of it in 2 seconds right in our garage here, and I mean, not to mention, there's something about that B5 blue paint I have never appreciated until Nathan brought it home. Um,
Pictures do B5 blue no justice.
no, that is a very pearlescent color. It's a beautiful color. I mean, you can't say enough good about a car in that class. I mean, he did drive the Mustang and
Yeah, I did.
the S550, and he wasn't super impressed with it. And I gotta say, I like the S197 more. I believe I speak for you as well when I say that. Obviously, the Coyote cars are super capable, but even stock to stock, the 392 has a serious, power and torque
And I
advantage.
am extremely happy that I drove the Scat before I drove the Mustang. Not this particular one that I own, but another Scat 6-speed. I am very glad that I did because I wouldn't have. I would say I'm proficient in how a car is supposed to feel and the way it shifts and the way it drives, and I was very, very, needless to say, underwhelmed with the way that the Mustang shifted for being stickered at
Yes.
$36,000 for
It's
this
certainly not a
particular one.
Tremec.
No, it wasn't. And $36,000, that's a lot of money for you know that's an investment.
Oh yeah, that's not a small. You're talking anything over $500 a month. You're talking it's a house payment.
Yep. So, I mean, and not to say that this Mustang wasn't nice because it was gorgeous. It was white with the blackout package, had the black grill, the black badges, the blacked out roof with no sunroof or anything like that. It was a gorgeous car, and it was definitely on the list of vehicles to consider. But
Right.
for the extra, that one was stickered at. Granted, this was a 2017. It was stickered at 35 or 36, and the Scat was stickered at like 43. But I kind of had the 2016 year model of the Scat to play to my advantage, and ended up getting the Scat for only a couple grand more than I would
Right, and
have for
it's
that same Mustang, and it's totally in a different class.
yeah. I mean, anybody who knows me knows I love the Coyote motor. I'm not a Mustang guy, and I'm certainly not a Camaro guy, but I do love the Coyote motor. I think it's one of
Yes,
the best of all times.
phenomenal.
That being said, if we're comparing looks, and we're especially comparing the interiors and the drive lines, the Challenger is easily the winner. I mean, you'll have one group of people say the Mustang's a better looking car, and then you have one group of people saying the Challenger's a better looking car. And unfortunately, the people who say the Mustang's a better looking car are either legally blind or idiots. So the Challenger is easily the better looking car, and you get a Tremec transmission out of the factory, and I mean just stuff like that. It's even if the car was 8 grand more, you're getting $8,000 more car easily by buying that car.
And kind of how I was talking earlier about kind of something that made me laugh about the Challenger, kind of on my drive home, the fact that they, went through the processes of making the Scat an enthusiast car, not making it the most luxurious car, or
Yes.
the a price tag of $43,000, in a similar car from like an Audi or a BMW or something like
Would
that,
be entirely different inside.
you're gonna be, half-ass lap of luxury. Versus, you get into the Scat Pack, and first thing you notice is the cloth seats and the cloth inserts on the doors. But that was purposefully done so that Mopar could take that extra money
put it into that drive
and put
line.
it into the drive line,
Exactly.
Into the forged 20-inch wheels.
Oh, yeah, the Brembo brakes.
The Brembo brakes, the Ibach
Bill
suspension.
Stein, Bill Stein suspension.
Yep, okay.
That's why, exactly. I mean, I had told them, like, hey, don't forget to cross shop, Audi and these guys. And,
which I did.
Exactly. And obviously, I'm a huge Euro guy. I love Audis, love older BMWs. Yeah, you go buy a newer Audi and you're comparing to a Scat, which, guys like us do that. You're getting a whole lot more interior and a whole lot more standard features, but you're getting a whole lot less motor.
Mm-hmm.
So by buying that, you knew what you wanted when you got it, and you certainly bought the best car that fit into that category. There's no question that was honestly the best. I told you that before you even did it. That was the best car. I've driven the GT350 now. I've driven the Camaro. I've driven the Scat. They're all different, but they're all in the same recipe. And the Scat just is it's so American. It should come with its own hot dog vendor. I mean, it is that good.
And we're only talking about a middle of the road Challenger here.
Yeah, we're not talking about a Demon.
We have the SRT,
Hellcat.
then the Hellcat, now the upcoming Demon. And this is a car that is obtainable, for yeah. I mean, it's not out of
your middle class American, family could easily afford a Scat Pack or a Mustang or a Camaro SS. They're definitely within that realm. Cars like the Audi A4, the Mercedes C250, the BMW most base model 320i with steel wheels and polyglass tires.
Let's not even get you started.
Yeah, I mean, right. That's going to put you right in that same category. So, it's not hard to see the good cars in that class. And ironically, it kind of brings us into a next point of value retention. Here's my problem with the Focus RS. Right now, there's huge amounts of markup on the car, and they're selling because what else compares to the Golf R, which is a phenomenal car, but it's not a Focus RS. It's not as fast. It's not as beautiful. Now, the motor in the Golf R is impressive, but it's not a Focus RS. But the problem with the Focus RS is the Audi RS3 Avant is coming. And it's going to have the 2.5 TFSI 5-cylinder from the TTRS. It's going to be the new kid on the block. And I do think when that happens, we're going to see a plummeting of Focus RS values because Now you have a seriously capable car right in it's in its face, in the words of the Fast and the Furious.
Yes.
And then, I mean, at that point, you're going to probably see Mercedes offering a wicked four-cylinder wagon. We got the CLA 45 sedan. You see where this is going. It's not just going to be Ford beating up on everybody.
And it's not that the fact that this is not going to be cross-shopped either, because
it is.
Even though the RS that I looked at was stickered at 42 to 43, somewhere in there, the fact of the markup
right.
puts that car up into the class,
of the S3. And yeah, I mean, it's putting it in that class range. And yeah, I mean, the RS3, that's what I think is going to be the Focus' biggest problem, is the RS3. I know it's going to be faster.
There's now, correct me if I'm wrong. The 2.3 in the Focus RS, that is a derivative of the 2.3, like what's in the Mustang, correct?
I think it is. I can't be positive. I know the RS is assembled in Europe, so I don't know if there's Cosworth touches on it or something. I'm not positive. If any, buddy listening knows, we'd love for you to comment and tell us, but I'm not positive. I know it's a good motor, but nothing crazy's happened with it necessarily in the aftermarket yet. Yeah. Not like what we've seen with the 5-cylinder or the Golf's 2.0 engine. Those things have been in the 9s already. The 5-cylinder's been on the 9s on stock bottom end now, and the 2.0's been 10s on stock bottom end.
Right. And the way that I look at it is...
That's rough.
If it is that, in that case, the 2.3 turbo is in a more of a baseline Mustang is available, and if it is the same engine, this is their, highline
cream de la cream car, yeah.
Right. As where in the case of, for instance, we'll go back to the Scat. The Scat has the highline engine being the SRT, the 6.4 392 Hemi, short of, the Hellcat Hemi.
Oh, but, yeah.
I mean, it's still an SRT.
And it's a lower model car.
It's its own bespoke engine.
Yes.
Even though the trucks have a 6.4, don't get it, mixed up with the 6.4 SRT engine, because,
yeah, there's
the
no
6.4 liter of displacement, that's where the similarities stop.
Right, yeah, there's nothing similar past that.
So, I mean, that's kind of my outlook, something that has the engine is the highline engine in that car, maintains that value.
It does. I mean, that's why M cars typically hold value,
and
bespoke engines.
Even the older SRTs, like the 300s and the Chargers and
they've
the
held
Challengers.
Rock solid.
I mean, they were trying to get me into a 2014 SRT Challenger, and they were still trying to get like $38,000 for the thing.
And they will, because they're selling it. I mean, there's a guy who was just selling that one I read off to you earlier, had 1,500 miles on it. He was only selling it $2,000 under book, and it did sell.
Yeah.
I mean, those things have insane value retention. That was one of the biggest reasons I said, hey, get the Scat. I'm not saying that the RS won't hold value for 3 or 4 years, but Volkswagen, Mercedes, Audi, they're playing in a really... That's treacherous waters right there. That's been a huge market for a long time. Even Subaru might find a way to hold their engines together and enter that real high threshold market. I mean, we'll see if they can do it.
Right.
But that segment's about to get chewed up, and it's going to be hard for any of those cars to stand out as a collector over the next car. But the Scat, it's not necessarily that it's a low production, it's a high demand car. And cars like that, we've seen that they are holding value. The SRT8s, I mean, you can go look and see a 2012 SRT8 Charger, and they're still pulling serious money. You're not going to lose your ass buying anything SRT.
Yeah.
Even a good SRT4 can still pull $10,000, and nobody even really wants those anymore.
Right.
And they're still pulling decent money. Good investment. I mean, if you're looking for cars like that, honestly, anytime you're buying an M, an AMG, an RS,
SVT,
oh yeah, like a Terminator. Oh my God, those cars especially
those have proven,
Oh yeah,
the
Terminators are pulling serious money.
The youngest Terminator that you could have is now 11 years old. Or no, it's 13 years old.
Yeah, somebody just bought one not long ago for like 25 grand. I mean, the 03 or 04
They'll be on
Cobra, whatever the termies are.
They hit their bottom. They'll be on the way back up.
Yeah, that's a car in 40 years you probably will see crossing the Barrett Jackson block and pulling six figures. I say it will happen eventually. It's in that league.
Too many of them have seen crowds
yes.
hopped over curbs. So
hit cameramen, crowds, dogs, innocent stop signs. Yeah, a lot. That was a really powerful car for its day.
It was.
Insanely. That's what makes a car great. The Scat Pack, almost 500 horse.
A naturally aspirated small block.
You just wouldn't picture it because you got to be careful when you start revving at a Challenger. Because if it is an RT and you're if it's just a basic RT, and if you're in a Camry that doesn't have a whole family in it, you'll probably run it door to door. One of the new Camry, it would. But if that's a Scat Pack, you better have something that's low 12s, or if it's from a roll, it better be high 11s because it's on, especially if that owner knows. I mean, ironically, we went to Columbus to pick up a car for me, and we was driving back, and a gentleman in a B8 or B9 S3, whatever they're calling those, was kind of playing around with Nathan, and I thought for a minute we're about to see an ass whipping. And the gentleman pulled up next to the Challenger and looked at his fender and literally he calmed down real quick. I mean, when you see that 6'4", you know what it is. Even if you're not really in the know, you have a pretty good indication of what that is. It's intimidating just seeing a number that large.
Especially. And if anybody listening knows me, I'm extremely humble and not.
Is
not a very out there to prove that I have the biggest, baddest car. And
no.
I understand what I have, and it's not the fastest thing in the world. There's plenty of other vehicles out there that are gonna destroy me at the push of the skinny pedal. But But at the same point in time, I know what I'm doing behind the wheel with, the manual transmission. I'll toot my horn. I've brought home, a trophy from, the track, driving a manual car.
Oh, yeah, in a bracket race.
In a bracket race. So, I mean, I'd like to say that I'm pretty decent in a manual transmission car. So,
right. We've both been doing it a while.
If you're in something, that's gonna be potentially faster than me, then it doesn't matter. I'm going to still give you a run for your money, and I'm gonna run the car for everything it's worth.
Oh yeah.
And I like to say that I can do that personally, and that is what makes me appreciate owning this kind of car, because so many people that would get this car wouldn't realize what it is, or wouldn't put it through its paces like it should be, in my opinion. But I feel as if I'm capable of that, and I'll take it to the track, and I'm sure that I will hurt some feelings, and I'm sure that I'll get beat too, but I'm going to enjoy it every which way that I can, and I'm just so pumped and excited to get back out there.
Car on that level, the first mod that anybody should do if they haven't already is get their driver mod. And it's true, if you haven't been to the track, I haven't been to the track in a while, but granted, in Mexico, and I'm not self-accusing myself, but I like to do my back road blast and brush up, and we've both been doing this for quite a while now, going to the shootouts, going to the test and tunes, and I'll even admit, Nathan's definitely a little better driver than me. He did it a lot more actively when I moved back to Tennessee, but there ain't a whole lot of people who are just, average to novice that are going to outdrive me. I'm pretty humble myself, but with a 5 or a 6 speed, I know I'm very capable with them. And yeah, if you have a car to that level, and if you can't drive it, it's not even really worth owning. It's best before you even ever do anything with a car like that, familiarize yourself with it.
Yes.
And if you can't do that, then why even mod it? Because you're never going to get anything out of it.
Yeah. And I'll be the first to say that, I was half-ass scared to drive the Scat hard.
Oh, I was scared when I drove it. I'll admit
I
it. It scared me.
I
I didn't
hadn't
expect
had
it.
a halfways decent car, and the fastest car that I've owned up to date, to the Scat was a car that was 225 horsepower.
Let's not get it twisted, though. The RX-7 with
Right.
its 225 horse was...
It was a mid-13s car on a extremely perfect night, cooled down in the pits. It was a mid-13s car.
Humble ass over here will say that, but that car on the highway was a monster. That's where that car shined.
Yeah.
It was after the quarter miles when that car came on. That was honestly a very impressive car. That car will always stick in my mind as one of the best pulling cars of its class.
But, going into a Scat Pack like that, V8 torque, rear-wheel drive, 6-speed, close ratio gearbox.
No comparison.
It was very intimidating at first, and
it scared me.
It will give you a big old bowl full of humble soup if you don't know what you're doing, and it will put you in very precarious situations if you let it.
You cannot get cocky.
You
with
cannot
a car like
get
that.
into something like that and just ultimately think that, oh, I'm gonna fucking be a badass and hot shot and I'm gonna fucking rip the shit out of this thing.
No.
And that's how we see all these Mustangs and Camaros, and the very first Hellcat got wrecked within, hours of being sold, is that mindset. And,
you have to understand physics and how a car operates, and if you don't, please, for the love of God, go out and buy a Subaru or an Evo. They're great cars, and they're a good way to start figuring it out. But, stick to something all-wheel drive if you don't understand the dangers of a rear-wheel drive car. I admit I had a Mustang in high school, that smashed up one, and it'd seen a cornfield. I decided I was going to take a corner, and it got away from me, and I undercorrected it, and I went through a cornfield with it. My E30, a couple times, almost seen off-road adventures. That's how you learn. That's how you learn something about yourself.
I've laid my RX-7 dead ass sideways in the middle of a curve because, you just kind of getting a little overzealous and getting too confident and at some points in time, and
that car will put you in your place.
It'll, it puts you in your place, right? Like you said, it'll straighten you out real quick if you don't, give it the respect it deserves.
And that's what shapes you up to really feel those cars out, like the day with me and you in the Maserati when there was a little bit of water on the road and we were blowing by, Nathan's old address, and that car almost got away from me that day. It really kicked out. I mean, the rear was almost off the road, and I stayed calm, brought it right back, and I didn't get in it again. Now, had that have been 5 years previous, we would have been calling AAA, and we probably both would have got a little banged up from that.
Yep.
That right there is how people get in trouble.
Yeah,
you got to put yourself in that situation to learn how to handle it.
And I am still in the learning curve on this car.
It is a very
I can say that I'm much
car.
more confident with the car and experiencing kind of pushing it a little bit, but now it'll be more in honing the launch and everything like that, being that it is a manual and on
so much power
on a street tire with a 245 tire.
Yeah, a small sidewall.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember driving it. I never even defeated the traction control. Just like the article said, I put it into the sport setting on whatever they call it in the super track pack setting. And it was allowing slip all the way through first, into second, then like a chirp going into third. And I could not physically believe that. I was man.
Literally, if you turn the traction control off.
And I've never done it.
And it will, it's a very, I don't want to say it's, ungodly, but it's a very well-mannered, when it's tractionless, I can say that it is actually a very well-mannered car from what I have experienced a little bit. Granted, this is just from like a dead stop, and not anything like at the top of third gear, fucking spinning tires
Oh
and
yeah,
getting crazy like
that's
that.
when you get a little
I
nuts.
I can't guarantee that it's well mannered then, but just from like a stop and it's just spinning tires off and it'll wag the tail out to one side and it'll kind of just it'll cooperate what you want it to do as long as you put it in sport mode and it tightens up the steering so you can't get too crazy with your overcorrections and stuff like that.
Yeah, it helps keep corrections kind of at a slower pace, about right where you'd want them,
Right.
really.
And in my opinion, it's a very manageable car as long as you don't start to, get too carried away with it.
Yeah, you got to understand what the car can and can't do. What it was designed for some straight line ass whipping, not necessarily taking an S curve at a very high rate of speed because, it's an aircraft carrier. It will capsize.
Yes, it will.
Ironically, we're talking about the car he has, and we were going to talk about some projects,
Yeah.
to wrap up. He was going to get rid of his DSMs he has. He, still has the beautiful white laser and the black all-wheel drive, and
Had a little bit of change of heart.
he did. He's still keeping them, and some of my stuff's been changed up since the last time. The Veloster is gone, and
The Sentra is gone.
The Sentra is gone, and you're probably wondering, what am I driving? Oh, for a while I wasn't driving anything, and
the Alice in Chains songs, Check My Brain instantly comes to mind.
Yes, precisely. And I did go out and kind of go back to my roots a little bit. This is my fourth now. I went out and got me an 86 Audi 5000. It is a turbo quattro before anybody laughs too hard.
5-cylinder.
Yeah, it's this
turbo quattro.
It's the good old making of Group B, legend. It actually does run and drive very well. It's got a miss. It's got a couple boost leaks. Needs a knock sensor, a coolant temp. Just basic.
Needs a little bit of love.
Car's 31 years old at this point, and God knows how many miles the odometer quit at 195. So it does run. I mean, I just drove it into town today to go bullshit with Nathan at his job, and the car was running flawlessly.
Drove it home from Columbus.
Drove it all the way home from Columbus, and
which is about an hour and 20 minutes from us.
Yeah, snowing sideways. Heater were. I mean, honestly, I really love it. It's definitely getting the love it needs. Ironically, we've already done some maintenance to it, getting it up to snuff. I have for any of the Audi listeners, I do have an NF head coming from the non-turbo, big valve head with the MC2 hot cam. And, got a fuel rail from 034 coming, so thanks to 034 for some motor mounts and a fuel rail. And we're getting ready to put that car on standalone to get it to EFI. And where the CIS metering unit used to be, will probably be an HX35 sitting there. And, that's my current project. It is my DD right now. I love the living shit out of the car, and we intend to make it very, very good. We're actually both very excited. We've never really got to tear into one of these. No. It is kind of a pain. Space is very tight, and, things are a little different, but it's also really fun to work on and get to learn it.
It'll be a learning curve, to say the least.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we have to make an entire wiring harness, to mega squirt the car, and that's a first for us. And, but, I mean, everything's there. Drive line, everything's good. It's seen a couple launches since I've had it, and me and Nathan were, going home from Columbus that day, and needless to say, I couldn't keep within a half a mile of them, but it does run pretty good for what it is when it, doesn't want to pull timing. Those old computers can really only pull timing. They can't really adjust fuel, as I've learned. So, yeah, there's something that's pulling some of the ignition timing, but when that's not happening, it actually runs really good for a heavier car. And, yeah, I'm sure we'll be talking about that and the Challenger, as well as the DSMs as time goes on.
Yep.
Those are what we're working on.
Still a lot of progress, going on with the DSMs. And it'll kind of be a DSM building adventure and an Audi building adventure, as I am helping
We've been
good friend of mine,
busy, yeah.
Yeah, good friends, helping them build their cars and working on a 2-3 stroker build for 4G63 and an Eclipse for another good friend, and it's, keeping me very busy.
Yes, we got our friend Dustin with the Eclipse, who's one of Nathan's coworkers. Me and my brother have known him for a very long time, and he's got a very nice build going on. And my brother has acquired a, hairdresser's Audi TT, and I know he's gonna commission Nathan to do some things on it. And I mean, it's pretty much what happens. Poor Nathan, he gets roped into doing all of our crap. So
it's all right.
that's what we do here. When I am home on weekends, me and the daughter are always out in the garage, and she's learning a new hobby and partaking in a lot of different cars we have. I mean, we have a serious variety out there. Like, we could have a world war with the manufacturing country cars. We have the world war out there.
With all of the DSMs in the garage, I'm surprised it hasn't,
burnt.
Yes, spontaneously combusted.
Well, now we got the Audi, so we better watch ourselves. That thing literally, like I said, it's solid, but it leaks enough coolant that I'm shocked the EPA hasn't just came and put me in handcuffs.
And we've got the Challenger that, could create a sinkhole, at any point in time.
Right, and put that with a 3,800-pound Audi. This plot of land here on our location.
We may very well cause a
yes.
A wormhole.
Yeah, the space-time continuum could have a collapse. Just the gravitational pull from my Freightliner, which weighs a little less than the Challenger, and then the Audi, which weighs a little more than the Freightliner. I mean, we have damn near 60,000 pounds sitting out there right now. But that's what we got going on. Projects and more projects. It's never ending when you're a car guy. Either you're a casual enthusiast, which there's nothing wrong with that, or you're hardcore like us. You're never happy. You have no social life, and your financial life's in shambles, but you have a pretty badass whip. So, that's us. And, we definitely appreciate everybody listening. And if you're one of us and you're diseased, I'm sorry, but I'm not. And, if anybody's feeling generous, buy me a Mega Squirt 3. And, get Nathan a Kenny Bell for his car.
Yeah, Whipple, Pro Charger.
Yeah, whatever you want to do. We do take donations, and, that's pretty much it. But, I mean, I think that wraps it up pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, again, anything you want us to talk about next time around, drop a hint in the comments.
We'll definitely be trying to do this a little more often.
Yes, we have absolutely missed it. We do apologize for the hiatus.
In the midst of, moving and
career changes. I've went through, going through a divorce. No pity party needed. But, that's going on. So those things just kind of
hampered the situation.
Yeah, we had to take care of some life stuff, and now that we're done being little bitches, we're back to it. And again, we appreciate it.
We're stoked.
If you're a upset GM owner, sorry not sorry. Hashtag no hair no care. And if you have a Mustang, be careful of crowds. We're getting a lot of snow here in Ohio today.
Yep.
And my brother, if you're listening, I do need my hair cut. Take it easy.
Later.